Hello everyone, once again this is Rob, and welcome back to Media Awareness. Before I continue, a reminder, the fundraiser continues. For those of you new to my channel or unaware, I am a disabled individual, and I use a motorized wheelchair slash scooter all day every day for my independence, and I need your help. My insurance will not cover anything with regard to my scooter as they view it as a quote luxury item end quote. Despite the fact that I am unable to walk whatsoever, in addition to being unable to use any other type of scooter or power chair, or even a standard wheelchair for that matter, as I only have limited dexterity in one hand. In addition to that, I do not have a backup scooter or wheelchair to rely on at the current time. So if my scooter should malfunction as it did a few months ago, I will yet again be a fish out of the water, a scenario I want to avoid at all costs. With that stated below the title of this video in the description, as well as in a separate section below the information pertaining to this video itself, you will find a spot fund link. It is a fundraiser, it's easy to contribute, takes a few seconds, any and all help is welcome. I cannot stress that enough, even $5 or $10 can make all the difference in the world. The purpose of the fundraiser is both to assist me in continuing the ongoing refurbishing of my existing scooter, as well as to help me to save for a new scooter as well. I came up with these conclusions following the malfunction that was alluded to a moment ago, whereby my scooter's battery charging mechanism had failed entirely, and for roughly 2 weeks I had to rely on family and friends to push me around my own home, severely limiting my independence. However, it was a long overdue wake up call that I need a backup plan in mind, and the backup plan is to have a brand new scooter to use moment to moment, day to day, every day, and my existing scooter completely refurbished, waiting in the wings to be used if necessary, when necessary, at a moment's notice. So please do what you can. You can even contribute anonymously, and once again, any and all help is welcome. I do want to extend a gracious thanks to those who have contributed thus far, in addition to those who plan on contributing, as your contributions have and will make a world of difference in my life. Thank you all. I love you all. If you are not subscribed to Media Awareness yet, please consider subscribing to my channel and becoming part of the Media Awareness family. I'd love to have you. Also, if you do so, please be sure to click the bell icon. That way you're notified whenever I upload something new. I tend to cover music on here, both reviews, reactions, etc. I also address films, literature, and in this case, online streaming shows or TV shows in general, past and present. Um, so, uh, I've been waiting for all the information to really come out on this before I did my video, and I was actually debating on whether or not to do a video or not on this, and just continue my reviews of the Wheel of Time Amazon Prime original series until I was done with reviewing season 3. However, I felt an update was warranted, and that's why there is no actual title screen at the beginning of this video. It's just me coming right in and talking about this news about the cancellation. So if you did not know already, the Wheel of Time Amazon Prime original series has been canceled, and there are a multitude of reasons given. I'm going to give you some of those reasons in this video and my personal take on those reasons, as well as my personal take on the series as it is. And if you have been watching my Wheel of Time reviews, you know that my enthusiasm for the show as a whole was building and building as the episodes were coming out. But I'm jumping ahead. Uh, to make a long story short, uh, the Wheel of Time premiered to really fantastic numbers in terms of viewers initially. And as more people watched and more people that read the books watched, they became disenchanted with the course that the show was taking, feeling that it veered too far away from the source material. Now, I've said this before in my Wheel of Time videos, as well as some videos I've done on the ongoing delays that Mr. George R. R. Martin has with releasing The Winds of Winter as part of the Game of Thrones series, Sound, Ice, and Fire. Pardon me. And there's a lot to be said for adaptations and um, staying true to source material. And I feel as if in our modern day of instantaneous communication and delivery of news and updates, that these aspects of series, whether they be film, TV, literature, or other, have been really expedited. And if you look back to Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings as an example, when that initially came out, it had many people that were uh, not happy with it as an adaptation. I thought it was wonderful myself. Um, and as a huge fan of the animated Ralph Bakshi partial Lord of the Rings adaptation, I was really impressed with what Peter Jackson had done, but not everyone was. Now it's held up as basically the benchmark for adaptations. So time changes perspective on intellectual properties. And um, the liberties and or changes that were made within the context of those intellectual properties. But with the essentially instantaneous posting and availability of information that we now have available, everything is pretty much like the snap of the fingers. It's right there at our fingertips, and there's no waiting, and there's no in that lack of waiting, there is no time to really process and think about changes that are made. So with that being said, I am a fan of Robert Jordan / Brandon Sanderson's Wheel of Time, and I feel that the books are brilliant. I feel that when Amazon Prime first started out the series, they had to make certain choices. Uh, there was no way the Wheel of Time was going to run for 14 seasons. There are 14 books in the Wheel of Time series for those of you that are unaware. So it needed to be severely curtailed in terms of time. And some characters developed, some characters cut out entirely, and some characters expanded on as they may not have been in the novels up to a certain point per se. So, uh, there's that. There is the aging up of characters to make them more adult oriented, adult themed, which was a gripe that many people had with the Wheel of Time series. Um, and that's not taking into account how difficult it can be to cast talented adolescent actors. Um, these people that they got for these roles were perfect, in my opinion. And a lot of people are harping on the diversity issue of the cast and that uh, Amazon was trying to push a certain agenda in terms of diversity. And I just think that's a reflection of our time. If you look at the books themselves, there's not a lot of diversity really present, um, with the exception of the Aiel and uh, the average people that are not Aiel. There isn't really a lot of distinguishing factors that make people different from one region to another. Whereas a visual format can really illustrate that a lot more. And I was really happy with season one. Um, when we got to the end of season one, and there were issues with um, the actor who played uh, Matt Coffin, Barney Harris, um, it was necessary to write around that rather quickly, and they were filming during the pandemic off and on as well, which severely curtailed the um, process as well. And it really hamstringed a lot of choices that were being made, and there was a cat's tail in the camera. I apologize. Uh, but I. Hey, stop it. Thank you. Um, so, if you're wondering, that was my cat Cornelius. He's getting kind of feisty. Cornelius! Cornelius! Buddy, thank you. Good boy. Anyway, so there were issues to deal with in terms of working around that. And as a writer myself, I am no stranger to coming across issues that I need to write around and rewrite and uh, basically uh, really fine tune. And they weren't given a lot of leeway to work within, so I felt that they did what they could do. And they also showed aspects of characters that wouldn't come into view or into perspective until far later in the series, which was fine because they were showing these characters' potential and they were throwing off the audience in terms of really kind of guessing who the Dragon Reborn would be. And that was really the main purpose of a lot of those little decisions throughout season one, the little um, things that happen with certain characters like Egwene and Nynaeve, showing aspects of their use of the One Power prior to Rand really using much of his. Um, and I think people forget that without reading the series, you do not know that Rand is the Dragon Reborn. And without reading the series, it's it's portrayed in the Amazon original as a surprise in essence. Um, and throughout the episodes within the first season, we are left to wonder, who is the Dragon Reborn out of all these um, individuals traveling with Moraine and Lan. So that's one thing I think that to keep in perspective, and it's an adaptation. It's not a one-to-one adaptation either. It's an adaptation with creative liberties, which I'm all for. If you don't do that, it's not your property. It's not your show. It's something drawn from source material directly. Therefore, it's not really credited to any writers other than the writer of the material itself. Um, so you have to get someone credit somewhere. In other words, and I'm all for the direction the show took and the way season one wrapped up because the Eye of the World itself uh, ended really on a lackluster note as a novel, in my humble opinion. And it wasn't really until The Great Hunt, the second book in the Wheel of Time series, that we got a really satisfying ending, in my humble opinion. Um, and in season two of The Wheel of Time, things started to uh, put themselves back on track. They started to right themselves. Um, as the replacement actor for Barney Harris, um, to replace his role as Matt Coffin, did a phenomenal job in taking the character of Matt and making Matt really the Matt that we knew from the books themselves. Sort of this flamboyant, very confident, um, overly confident, I should say, gentleman, and in the case of the books, adolescent. But I'm all for the aging up, as I said. I feel it really helped the maturity level of the characters in the show. It made you really wonder at times if their decisions were the fact that they were still young but not too young, sort of just past the cusp of that questionable line of maturity and immaturity, basically. And I feel that that was illustrated quite well. Um, I think that season two went off very well. I did a review of all the episodes, episode by episode, of season two. You can find them all on my channel, as well as I believe a summary of season one itself. But that's just so you're aware. You can also find reviews of episodes 1, 2, and 3 of season 3. And the reason I stopped doing my reviews prior to the announcement of this cancellation, Easter had come along here in the States, USA, and I was very ill. And as those of you who watch my channel are aware, I was putting out videos as I could, but nothing where I had to really speak for long periods of time. Otherwise, it would not have been a pretty sight. So, I am planning on reviewing the rest of season 3, as that's all we have, and giving you my take on each episode as they are, and that will be in the very near future. I'm trying to plan that accordingly in my schedule itself, but I digress. I feel like season 2 was a vast, I don't want to say improvement, but it really did delve into the characters that we were set up with in season 1. And we got more character development, as should be the case as the show moves forward, or a book for that matter. And in this case, we got that. Um, and I I really loved season 2. I thought it was done wonderfully. I loved everything about season 2. Season 3, I was highly anticipating, and as soon as it started, I watched the first episode several times. I was enamored with it, and still am. And as each episode aired, 1 through 3 that I've seen, um, actually 4. I've watched 4 of the series so far. I've not done a review of episode 4 here yet, as I'm still trying to digest what I witnessed and be able to phrase it accordingly for all of you out there, as it was a very involved episode, and I want to make sure that I'm articulating what I witnessed properly and do it the justice that it deserves. It was a wonderful episode. But there are full episode reviews of 1, 2, and 3 here on my channel as well, of those 3 episodes. And they were great episodes. We had a lot further character development. We had a lot further world building occurring. Um, we had the unveiling of the Black Aja being uh, essentially really um, spoken about openly and seen openly, as opposed to simply being in the shadows as they were in season 2 and less in season 1. But they were something that was gradually hinted at in the novels as well. So it was a good, timely revealing in my reckoning in terms of what I felt and how I felt it occurred. Um, I absolutely think that Rand was given the screen time and the attention that he deserved, as well as the proper uh, positive and negative feelings in terms of if he didn't follow a certain path, what could or could not occur in terms of both the world as a whole, in terms of his role in the pattern, and we see a lot of that in episode 4. I'll get to that when I do that review very, very soon. But it's something that took a lot more time to really be developed in the books, and I think that had the show had gone the route of the books, people would have gotten bored very quickly. Um, Whereas this was a really efficient way to tell a really grand story, an epic story, and I was very pleased with how it was unfolding, and when I saw the fantasy news update initially um, that the show had been canceled, um, and I watched that episode of Fantasy News. Um, I was really disheartened, uh, and I I've watched other people's updates, and they're all playing the blame game. I'm not about to assign blame anywhere because I feel that the showrunners were doing what they felt was best for the audience and for a modern audience, whereas these books were written dating back to the early 90s onward. So, or published at least in that time frame. So, there are a lot of things that could not be written about back then that were subsequently able to be showed and much more in modern day. Um, Amazon has done a great job expounding on ideas and concepts in literature that aren't necessarily fleshed out very well. The Man in the High Castle, based on the Philip K. Dick novel, is always my perfect example of a book that is a good book. It is a really compelling novel, but it has very little in character development, and uh, you don't really get a sense for the urgency of what is occurring in the context of the book, whereas the show, over the course of 4 seasons, allows that to develop, allows the characters to develop, and allows you to care about them. And I was really developing a fondness for the characters in the Wheel of Time. Um, I'd read the books, so I had a fondness for them already, but in seeing a visual representation, regardless of changes made, I really was fond of these characters and the way that they're being portrayed. And I think that we should have been given some proper closure, uh, as opposed to being sort of left on a cliffhanger, if you will. And I think even if Amazon were to do 2 or 3 feature length, brief synopsis films of the closing of the story, just to wrap things up, would have been nice. However, we're not getting that at this time or in the foreseeable future, and it's sad. It's really sad that it's being cut short before it really has time to grow as it has been, and also be embraced as what it is becoming or was becoming and had become, which was a really quality fantasy television series, uh, streaming series. I've done videos, as I stated, on Song of Ice and Fire, here and there. My thoughts on George R. R. Martin, my thoughts on the show, and the direction that the show took that fans were not fond of, and everyone had blamed HBO for those decisions being made, when HBO had been given the ending of the series by Martin years in advance. It was part of the contract he had signed. So, with that being said, there was a definitive ending that they had in mind, and this is despite Martin's claims that he is a gardener in terms of writing, not an architect. I would say he's more of a landscaper, as he does have a framework as to what he wants to do, and it's not simply random. It's very thought out, but it's not written out per se. Uh, Whereas Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time, and Brandon Sanderson, for that matter, are very methodical in their writing style, and everything is well thought out ahead of time. And I really want to champion the Wheel of Time and say that I was very happy with Amazon's series, and I do hope that we are able to see either more of it in some manner, perhaps on another streaming service continued with the same actors, or even on Amazon, just in a abridged format. Anything to be able to give us the closure that we as fans deserve. And if we don't have that, we have 3 fantastic seasons of a great show that just got better as it went along. And I stand by that. I love The Wheel of Time and always will. And I love it in its literary form as well as its visual adaptation. I want to know your thoughts, so leave them in the comment section below. I would really appreciate that. And I will see you all again soon. Have a wonderful morning, noon, or night, wherever you are. And remember, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. Take care. Bye.